Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast, this time talking about A.L. Kennedy's The Drosten Curse, released on the 23rd of July 2015. Every year, BBC Books manage to produce a rather nice hardback novel. And yes, we know that City of Deaths come out, but it's something to get you through the summer, something it comes in around the 300-page mark, and something that produces, well, it's taken from a different author, someone you weren't truly expecting as a Doctor Who author, somebody with a bit of, well, let's call it credibility. And A.L. Kennedy, the author of 15 books, twice been selected as Britain's best novelist, and she's won a huge amount of awards, including the Costa Book of the Year back in 2007, is a massive Doctor Who fan. She's also one of those literate authors. You know, the sort of thing that snobs like. She's a Fellow of the Royal Society, a Fellow of the Society of Literature, and she's also a lecturer at Warwick University. What is it about Warwick University and their English department? That's another podcast for another time. So this person with, let's call it, a decent track record has come to us with, well, a Doctor Who book. So The Drosten Curse is a fourth Doctor novel, which is odd. Is this some sort of an attempt to crack the American market? Or are the, let's call him the Capaldi Doctor, I really can't call him the 12th, and I really can't, and I'm so sorry, I'm being pedantic and it's pointless and I'm sorry. It's a fourth Doctor novel, which is odd, because we've just had City of Death. But that's fine. You see, this, like, say, Blink, was based on What I Did in My Summer by Sally Sparrow, is based on a story from Time Trips, which is basically a different version of Short Trips. It's short stories combined into one marvellous thing, almost novella length. They have been combined into one massive hardback, which is just great, but that's not what's important. What is important is that this is a hefty tome, and it's particularly well written. Yes, there's a reason the people at BBC Books went to this story and expanded it, but there's also a reason that they went to this author and went, give us more. A.L. Kennedy is a glorious Doctor Who fan. She writes borderline fan fiction, but it's crafted so beautifully. I'll read you a section and let you choose for yourself, but basically it's another great book, giving us another glimpse of the Fourth Doctor's time. I can't wait for the audiobook, and if they do bring it out, let's hope that somebody Tom-like manages to pull it off well. Here's the excerpt.
It's Saturday night tea time in 1977 all over again.
Paul Harris was dying. This wasn't something his afternoon schedule meant to include. Death, as far as Paul was concerned, was one of the many unpleasant things which only happened to other people. He never attended a funeral, all those miserable relatives. He also avoided weddings, all of those smug relatives. And he skipped every christening to which underlings in his firm thought they should invite him. All those sticky, noisy babies, all those sticky, noisy underlings. Mr. Harris's death was particularly surprising to him, as it involved being eaten alive by a golf bunker. At least, he could only assume that something under the bunker was actually eating him alive. Now he'd sunk down past his knees into the thing, he could only assume that it wasn't going to stop eating him, because it wasn't stopping. First, he'd been gripped around his ankles while he was eyeing a tricky shot in the 13th green. The process had involved an initial pressure, combined with a slight and very disturbing pain, and then a type of numbness had set in. Next, he'd sunk into the sand by a few inches. Before another, he'd tried not to think about the word bite, but he couldn't help it. Before another bite was taken with a little more gentle pain and more numbness, and another tug downwards. Paul liked to think of himself as powerful and unstoppable. And there was huge power, and a definite unstoppable will at work here, and he would certainly have admired them both if it had not been ruining his very nice pair of lime green golfing trousers and his very nice legs inside them. Paul was surprised to discover that he was completely unable to scream for assistance, and there was no one about to even notice his rather unusual situation. Never mind save him from it. His golfing partner, David Agnew, had unfortunately flounced off towards the clubhouse a short while ago, as Paul was jerked further into the sand and reflected that Agnew had proved himself as bad a loser as he was a really irritating man. Still, it would have been helpful if Agnew had stuck around, because maybe he could have pulled Paul out of the bunker, or written down the last few requests, or got eaten too. Paul imagined that seeing David Agnew getting eaten by a golf bunker would have been highly satisfying, because people like David Agnew were pretty much ideal golf bunker food, in Paul's opinion, although he was prepared to admit that he knew nothing about bunkers which ate people and what they might prefer. If he had any information on them, perhaps provided by his loyal secretary Glenda, then he might not be plunged to his waist in one right now. The list of things that Mr. Harris knew nothing about was extensive. He had never at all been curious about those aspects of the world which didn't benefit him directly. Nevertheless, the most inquisitive human alive on Earth at that time still wouldn't have known Paul was being consumed by a creature so old and so mythical the universe had almost completely forgotten it ever was. The thing had passed beyond legend and was now simply a vague anxiety at the edge of reality's nightmares. On the 5th of September 2015, Hooverville will return. The biggest little Doctor Who convention in the whole of the UK is proud to present several fantastic guests. First off is the Colin Baker, a man who needs absolutely no introduction. Guests also include the author Jenny Colgan, responsible for Dark Horizons and Time Trips, Richard Marson, the man behind JNT, The Life and Scandalous Times, and the brand new book Drama and Delight, the biography of Verity Lambert, Dan Starkey, the man behind the mask when it comes to Commander Strax, and of course Ian the Elf in the Christmas special, Terence Dix, one of the men behind the Third Doctor and more Target novelisations than you can shake a stick at, the actor David Benson, from Robot of Sherwood, Iris Wildtime and the Scarifiers, Matthew Waterhouse, yes, Adrake, Michael Pickwood, the current production manager on Doctor Who, and Karen Louise Hollis, author of The Man Behind the Master, the biography of Anthony Ainley. More guests may be added, but either way, that's a fantastic lineup. Visit the Derby Quad website on www.derbyquad.co.uk and follow the links. Saturday the 5th of September 2015. See you there. You've been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast, available on RSS, iTunes, Stitcher, Audio Boom and Tumblr. Doctor Who and its associated works are copyright of the BBC. No infringement is intended. You can contact the show, donate, buy merchandise or find out more about my other projects by visiting the Tin Dog Podcast homepage and clicking on the links. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance. Oh, and the fact that there's a character in it called David Agnew, well, let's ignore, shall we?